You are inaugurated as the Knight of the Wild community, Sir Anna Wild. Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the Abby
and Anna
show. We have so much in there now. This is our third episode and we're so pumped to be here. Thank you for joining us. So we have started this brand new series with the aim of discussing life, but in a fun, joyful, light-hearted way. But we want to say thank you to every single one of you guys who are here, who are hearing us out and who are just enjoying this time. So grab a brew. We've got one going, as always, the giant mug of life and death right there.
Here.
It is here.
My mug is as deep as life itself.
Wow. So anyway, basically the way these episodes work is we release them onto our Patreon page, so our Patreon community, on the first Sunday of every month. So it's an early access. If you join our Patreon page, not only do you get early access to the Abby and Anna show, but so much else. Yeah, there's a community, blah, 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 blah. So do have a look at that. Link is down below. Or if you just want to grab it on YouTube, it'll be up on the second Friday of every single month. It's exciting. It's officially a thing. It's in the diary, ping, pang, pong, happening.
Calendar has a mark.
Today we're talking about something really important and something very close to my heart, and that is Anna.
Oh, yeah. For a second I thought maybe I misunderstood everything and we're talking about something really important.
No, we're talking about you, my dear.
Okay.
Obviously, we have shared a little bit of our story in the first episode. So if you're interested in that and finding out more about us and how we came to be and how the Abby and Anna show came into fruitful realization in the big wide world, then please head back to episode 1. But today, essentially what we're going to do is go right back to the beginning and have a chat about Anna, because she's obviously popped up on the channel here and there, and now you're doing all sorts of stuff for Wild. And I thought like actually this would be a really good opportunity to have a chat about you and get into your background. And also on Patreon, I've got a whole bunch of questions that people have asked, so we'll finish up with that. So it's going to be a little bit more interviewy style.
Great.
No pressure. We're just going to have a little bit of fun. So I think we should kick it all off by officially saying welcome to Wild. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling alright. I have a bit of a sore neck, but otherwise I'm great. Yeah.
Good. Well,
I have tea, I have you, I have
aww,
I have Wild.
that was a bit cute.
No, all good.
Okay, cool. Well, anyway, I think what I'd like to do then, because I've been thinking about the structure of this, and there are so many places to go, because I feel like you've done a lot. There's a lot we can talk about in relation to Wild or not. But I would like to talk about where you're from and what sort of role the outdoors played in your childhood life. So,
Okay.
where did you grow up, and how was the outdoors in that picture?
So I grew up in a very, very tiny village outside of Munich, which is in Germany.
Yes, it is.
The outdoors was my garden when I was young. So as I said, a very tiny village. There were about 140, 150 people living in the village when I grew up there. And it was a be outside every day sort of childhood.
No matter the weather.
No matter the weather.
Nice.
Absolutely, yeah. No, so I used to play in the fields around the village all the time. Anything from building dens in forest with my friends. And they were obviously all of the village kids. There were a couple of groups. But we always used to go and hang out together outside, playing with the farmers' kids, and the farmer used to pull us around the fields and on our sledges behind the tractor, and everything. It was just like a full-on lifestyle pretty much, because I used to hang out with some of the farmer kids, and we would be in the stables and we would help with whatever we could, or we'd be in the straw balls, or we, as I said, built dens in the forest, or I just as soon as I had my dog, I would also just like go out and walk for hours. I would very often also just take my homework and lie in the field in the summer and do my homework outside.
I did that too. Or a tree. I had a particular
Yes.
tree in which I could perfectly recline, and I did
Yeah.
all my GCSE and A-level studying in that tree.
Okay, yeah. I did, I loved sitting in trees when it was really stormy.
Yeah, you have a
I
bit of a thing for that.
yeah.
Like, oh, in this kind of weather, I would love to be sat in a tree, and the tree's like...
Yeah,
I'm like-
it's just something so freeing when you know it's a decent and young tree and it's actually flexible
Yeah,
enough
that's
and
true.
stuff and hold you. It's just so nice to be part of the weather.
When did you get a phone?
A phone, I went to I think you can compare it in the UK to like a grammar school, to Munich, and I had to take 2 different buses and a train, and I got a phone then, so when I was 11.
Okay.
But it was back in the days, it was a Triumph, I think. Maybe some people remember those phones with proper antenna. And
Oh, man.
it could only place calls and text messages. There was no additional service to this phone.
My first was a flip, I remember.
Oh, that was like the 4th generation of phone that I had. Made you a little bit too young for,
Wow.
what I'm talking.
Might me. Okay, so yeah, what I don't want to do is put you in a box, because obviously with Wild we are outdoors focused, generally mental health, physical health focused. But one thing that really differs between us is, I mean, anyone looks at me and you're like, has she ever changed her clothes? Is you are and were much more interested in fashion and makeup.
Yeah.
And I'm interested because, we'll talk about where you end up, how sort of university and studying goes in a little bit. But what sort of role did fashion and makeup play in your life as you were growing up? And when did it become sort of your thing?
First of all, I'm not prepared for this question. That's
Not prepared for anything.
No, I'm not prepared for anything.
You aren't prepared for this, mate.
Don't mind me, mate. It was definitely very early, and I would say it kind of came up parallel to me loving the outdoors as well, because even for me it is a bit contradictory almost. Definitely when I started going to school in Munich, you are in a bigger city, you have different impacts than just, to put it bluntly, farm life or outdoor life,
Well, we
just
are
being-
officially #owning farm life.
Yes, and being muddy at all times. But also, my mum is a hat maker, and she has always, she has created fashion herself. She used to run her own small fashion shows, and it's always been a way of self-expression, I would say. And on the other hand, even getting myself into a place that is when I was older, and especially now in hindsight, being able to say I was never extremely self-confident, but I knew what tools I could use in order to make me look in a way that I wanted to be seen. So fashion and makeup would just make me more confident, and therefore made me able to kind of be outside somebody I couldn't be without that.
Yeah. I really like that, I mean, obviously there is a lot that I like about you, but I enjoy that you have almost those two sides. Like, you're very able to, like, rough it.
Yeah.
Although you have slightly better hygiene practices than moi. But you also really can dress up.
Yeah.
And that means I'm winning. But also, it's just nice seeing you like do that and be able to express yourself through the things that you're wearing. But you've been on a bit of a journey, haven't you? Because as you'll know through the first episode on the Abby and Anna show, life has changed a lot in the last year.
Yeah.
And you've changed a lot, not just the last year, but the last few years or whatever have been this transition point. And I want to talk about the amount of clothes, and I want to talk about the journey you've been on of letting go of things, but in the letting go you're gaining more control. What does that look like for you?
Well, so I think it's been a kind of a development that has started a long time ago, when I had to face my first international move, and I was already I was living by myself, and I had a full dressing room. I was a little bit of a not only clothes but also shoe fanatic.
Can I just say you don't need to feel uncomfortable, because I would have a gear warehouse at the current rate things are going. So
Yes.
all good.
And right now I think we're fairly balanced.
We are pretty balanced. Gear versus clothes, yeah, there's a parallel there.
And you know, I took on a lot of clothes from my grandma just because I was very diverse in what I was wanting to wear as well. So when my grandma died, I held on to a lot of those clothes just for keepsake point of view, but also from a fashion point of view. And when I then moved internationally with just a handful of suitcases, I obviously let go of a lot of stuff. And I then accumulated a whole another load of clothes because
different climate.
A different climate, exactly. You know, you go from a winter climate or full season climate to a
1 season
10.5 months summer climate, and suddenly you're like, you know, I'm going to work in that climate, and it's like, well, oops, I have to dress myself somehow. And now when I moved out, I just realized how heavy it is to have so much stuff. And I still love fashion. I still love, you know, dressing up once in a while and just feeling good about myself and using those tools as the support. But I know that I don't need a big number of dresses, and it's the same with so many things, and so many things were just numbing. It was just shopping for numbing. When I've so many situations where I really know, like I went through my first miscarriage and I was just incapable of even thinking. It was almost like so flustered. Like I see you getting flustered like that sometimes now, and I think, damn it, that's exactly how I was. And I would just go shopping, didn't know what else to do, and for the day it would just sort it out. It was nice. In the long term, is as I'm saying, you know, it's weight, it's so heavy, it's so tiring to drag all of this crap around.
No, that's very interesting, and I just wanted to touch on that. Anna has no idea what I'm going to ask her today, in truth, nor do I. So something I'd like to ask you now, because I'm getting ready to transition away from childhood into moving out from home, blah, blah, blah. Who influenced you most whilst you were growing up? Because you have always been a very people person. You've always had that quote-unquote support network. You know, you've had friends, you know, your family. Who really influenced you most into who you are now?
I think for a very long time, I wouldn't have been able to answer this question.
Okay.
There was a point in my life where I really realized who was just the biggest impact. And it's much easier to say that in hindsight.
Yes.
And it is my grandmother, my dad's mother. I think I mentioned last time, or at some point, that my dad died when I was really young. And me and my brother would spend a lot of time in summer holidays, etc., up north in Germany, where my grandparents lived, and I, for a long time, had a closer relationship to my grandpa, actually. And when he passed away, there was this weird shift, and I was just extremely close to my grandmother. I would go up and stay with her whenever I could in the summer, like in any school holidays. I very often just caught the train up by myself and made sure I spent time with her. And she was just such a kind-hearted person. She was very understanding. She got me out of trouble a few times where nobody else knew about it, just her and I. And I know that whatever it was, I could talk to her about it and not be judged and not be criticized, but just understood and loved through it. And she was just one of the funniest persons I've ever met. Yeah.
You mentioned a lot about her, you know, through the time that we've known each other, and she does sound pretty cool, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's sort of growing up. We transition now, and I know off the top of my head, one of the patrons wants to know, where was university? Where did you go to university? If not, what did you do? So where did your studies take you?
I didn't go to university. I did my A-levels. So I went for an exchange in India for my 11th year. Germany has a slightly different school system.
Is that like sixth form?
Yes.
So A-levels?
No, it's the last year before your A-levels.
Oh, okay, that sort of is year 11,
yeah. So I was pretty determined not to go back to school afterwards, but my mum really put her foot down and said, Anna, you can do whatever you want after you've done your A-levels. And I am so grateful that she has, in that case and in many other cases, just said, Anna, just, you know, hold your horses, just be a little bit strategic about things here. So I've done my A-levels, and then I wanted to travel. India just started that fire in me that I wanted to travel. And I decided that the best way of combining work and my life dreams was going into hotel management. So I actually was trained in a very decent hotel in Munich as a hotel manager. There's a particular way of what it is in translating. Again, Germany has a different system, so you're trained in a dual way. You have your theory and you have a practical part of the training.
How long is the training?
It's a 3-year training.
3 year,
if you're good enough, you can cut it down to 2.5 years, which I did because I had, while I was still in training, met my now ex-husband and moved across the globe. Do you want to go further into your
do you mind talking about where you went?
No, I don't. So I moved from Munich to Hong Kong, and
what was it like in Hong Kong? 3 words. No pressure.
Big, dirty, and busy. Yeah.
Is hot not one of them?
Yeah.
4 words.
Big, hot, dirty, and busy.
No.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you pick out a particular highlight from being there? Because I can steer this slightly.
Yeah.
I know another patron is interested in sports.
Okay.
Did you do sports as a kid? But if not, was there anything you got into as an adult?
Yeah. So I was, funnily enough, because at one point when I was really involved in sports in Hong Kong, my mum said, Anna, you know, I never thought that at one point in your life you would actually enjoy moving.
Wow.
Yes. So I did judo for a while when I was little. I used to play basketball for a while, but I never got into the right team, I would say. I was always, I think, looking back, I was always a bit awkward. I was always the tall girl.
Welcome to the show.
Yay! So yeah, definitely. There were a lot of things in Hong Kong that were really, really cool, and I don't want to miss a second of it. But the absolute highlight, and it was one of the hardest things for me to lose when I left Hong Kong, was my dragon boat team. I really got into dragon boating.
For people who don't know, what is dragon boating?
So dragon boating is, I think most people actually know it. I was very surprised by how many people from the Western world also know it. It's a sort of I'm doing something that a dragon boater wouldn't do, but it's sort of a rowing sport. But you row in a different way. You don't row this way. You row in an A-frame, and it's very high intensity. Yeah, it's a very cool sport. Yes. After the first season, we started to get really competitive, and we were really good at it. Yeah, and I just loved it. I loved the purpose. I loved going to training twice a week and being out on the ocean, no matter the weather. Again, I loved the challenge of that. Once I got my head around how I could push myself and look after myself at the same time. The team was just incredible. We were from all over the world, just very cool people. We were like a family. It was really special. Yeah.
No, it sounds like something very fun, and I've seen the pictures and massive smiles.
Yes.
It's good, and it's nice that you can get a little bit competitive as well.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sort of jumping around a little bit. I want to come to the UK now. So you spent 3 years or so in Hong Kong. Correct me if
4.
4 years. Okay, cool. In Hong Kong, came across to the UK. You guys sort of sorted life out here. At what point, if at any point, did walking in the UK become an interest to you?
It was you. I mean, if we're just talking about walking in the UK, definitely you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, do you, prior to knowing me, did nature serve any kind of conscious purpose in your life?
Yes, absolutely. 100% on a day-to-day basis. I mean, we talk about this regularly as well. I had a not big but half decent sized garden. I love gardening, and for me it was my everyday morning routine, just like you go for your walk. I would go into my garden with my cup of coffee. Love growing vegetables, just making sure that I have a colourful garden from the word go, pretty much. Like every season there is a different bloom happening. So gardening is
But why gardening?
I don't know, I think it keeps me in the loop of the world turning without any other bigger picture. Like it's the closest that reminds me, and I love having home produce. I love knowing that I can, out of a very little seed and just with love and nurturing something, actually be fairly self-sufficient. It's very calming for me. Yeah.
And what I like and love about how you garden is it's structured, but it's not. Like, I remember when I first went into garden and you're showing me like the courgettes tucked underneath like a lavender plant, and you've got the avocado bushes, not with avocados on, but even the nettles which serve a purpose, or the potatoes growing out of the compost, and then you go along and it's this rotation and everything is very uncomplicated.
Yes.
And I really like that because as somebody, like, that was the same year that I first started trying to grow things. Always wanted to, finally got myself to a place where I could. Have to say it was somewhat of a success. The things you gave me were much more successful, but space tends to help. But anyway, like, it was amazing, and seeing all the different fruits and vegetables that you were growing, and you even cultured like a bramble bush. Like, most people would rip that out, but you celebrated the blackberries that were growing on the bramble bush because you encouraged them to grow.
I was just going to say, and that's very funny because I was really interested and amazed by seeing the whole change and it was just a wild random bramble bush. When we moved into that house, half of the garden was covered by that bramble. And because I had kind of cultured it the way I had, the berries just every year they got bigger, and they were really decent in the end, and they weren't in the beginning.
No.
And it was really interesting for me to see that as well.
It really sort of sparked the question in my head as well, like, separate to humanity, how nature is designed to flourish in sort of the circle of life. Like, things generally, when nature is in balance, are naturally being cultivated. You know, the deer would eat the bramble or whatever, and therefore it would be in a healthier state. It's not a weed as such, and like that sort of really came to life in the garden. You'd see all the butterflies. We even attempted a pond that was not quite as fruitful as the vegetable growing, but to be continued.
It's alright.
and so this is sort of a nice segue for me, because the next thing I want to talk about is food. Because everybody loves food, me in particular, and this one's pretty decent at making stuff. So again, Patreons wanted to know where our food tastes overlap and differ, and sort of what our each individual signature dishes are.
Cool.
I mean, I can kick that off because I have one. One and only one signature dish. No, go on.
Well, I think we overlap in everything but spicy.
Pretty much.
There's chili everywhere and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Do you think I could get by in Hong Kong or India?
Yes. It potentially...
There's confidence in the voice, not in the eyes.
No, I think you could, you can, in all of these countries, you can ask to not have it very spicy. And there's...
Little spice.
More spicy.
Exactly.
And you would definitely be able to get by.
Okay.
You would miss out though. Yeah, so I like spices.
Yeah.
Spicy, you don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, spices are okay. But
Yeah.
spicy, hot is like, no
No.
go. Put it on your plate. Oh yeah, what's your latest fetish? It all comes down now.
I found this crispy chili, it's not a paste, it's more like it's just crispy chili.
Like a chutney almost.
Yes and no though, because it's not it's bitty, it's very bitty. It's just like crushed up chili and oil.
Okay.
And there's some tofu stuff and onions and whatnot in there. From a tiny little Thai place down by the coast. And the first jar and it's a big jar, it's a 500 gram jar. I shouldn't have eaten that in 4 days, but I did.
In the corner, like. So the reason why I brought up this question about food is because your garden, I remember when I'd be at yours, we'd pick flowers and put them on the top, like nice blue flowers. That's my definition ID right there. The blue ones.
The blue ones.
Or the herbs would come from the garden. And and so essentially you sort of ate, certainly with me at least, very close to nature. And that's something that's quite, well, that's how we eat now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, go on.
No, always have. Whenever I could, I would.
Yeah, and you have a much more culinary mind than me. And is that something that comes from your hotel training?
No, I wouldn't say so. Obviously in the hotel, having worked in the kitchen as well, and I have like my basics about cooking and about how to prepare food, etc. Yeah, and it's from traveling. I've eaten in so many places, and thankfully I've been to many places where it was a great variety of vegetarian food as well, because I've for most of my life been very vegetarian. And I've just accumulated so much knowledge about what spice works with what other spice, and what herb works well with, whatever vegetable, and vice versa. So it comes very naturally to me. Okay. Yeah. If there's whatever is left in the house, I'm going to make some sort of a decent meal out of it, because I hate food waste, and I know you can make a very good meal out of the most basic things if you just chuck the right spices and herbs into them.
Our one difference in how we cook is it's amazing, or it's a miracle if a lot of food actually makes it to the final plate when I'm cooking, because I really eat as I go along, and you don't.
No, yeah, because I it's a ceremony for me to prepare it, to cook it, and then to actually sit down and...
It's a Viking battlefield for me. Pretty much. Okay, quick 5 question. Favourite food? Go.
Salad.
Favourite vegetable? Go.
Ooh, cherry tomato.
Favourite fruit? Go. Kind of technically a vegetable. Swap it around.
Favourite fruit?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Nothing beats a good ripe mango in the Indian mango season.
Mango.
But then, how good is blackberry from the bush in the morning, first summer days?
That's not bad also, or raspberry.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 answers. Fine, I'll take it. Guilty pleasure.
Popcorn.
Yeah. Sweet treat. Popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love some good nutty dark chocolate, but I'm just reading 10 billion again, and a bar of chocolate costs so much water. It's just, it really is guilty. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Final quickfire question, which I'm currently thinking of, so I'm going to continue talking until I think of it. It's coming my way.
I'm gonna have a
any
sip of
second
tea.
now. Favorite season?
Spring or summer is hard because I love when the plants start growing, but then also in summer when you just harvest. Late summer when you harvest and it's still hot and good outside. There's also, it's just, this is, as a gardener, when you know, like, that's when your work pays off.
Yeah, true that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can testify to that because I've eaten her food. Okay, so the final thing to sort of talk about with food is signature dishes that we live off. My favourite food is sweet potato, without a doubt. I just love it. I can eat it all day, every day. So generally, our signature dish together combined is, and we eat this every day, not because we're choosing to be healthy, not because of anything.
It's just the best
really
food.
enjoy it. So we have a salad. This is not just a let's go to the pub and get a piece of iceberg salad. We're going to alternate the ingredients, okay?
Okay.
It has lettuce, which can involve iceberg, all sorts of different lettuce, spinach, Romanian heart, basically, rocket. Think of a lettuce, that'll probably be in it. Your turn.
Tomatoes. They can be fresh, they can be sun-dried, they can be small, they can be big. They are just
chip
round and red.
Exactly. We have cucumbers and peppers, all the colours, you know, red and yellow peppers or orange if we can, mix them in. Yeah.
Do we only use cucumbers? No, we use cucumbers and gherkins because gherkins are good.
And the juice. A little bit of the juice in there.
A little bit of gherkin juice in the dressing of a salad makes a massive difference.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Okay, so we sometimes also put in like
olives.
Olives and aubergine. So what is it, like oiled aubergine?
Well, yeah, they you can buy them. They like antipasti, roasted
really
aubergine.
Not expensive either.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty about everything we're talking about. It's proper accessible on a budget.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that was mine.
Then we do carrots and parsnips quite often, especially when we have sweet potatoes, because we like to roast them in the oven.
We're talking about roasting. You literally just get carrot, like cut into circles. You know, none of this is just chopping and mixing it basically.
Yeah.
Beans, so I love beans. Not the biggest baked bean fan at all, but I love cannellini beans, butter beans, kidney beans, chickpeas,
mixed bean
salad. You know, you buy a can for 30p and just whack that in there. Boom, happy days. What else have we got?
There's one thing, and this is
I was going to talk about this, but alright.
This is our guilty pleasure, because we are trying to be as vegan, I would say, as possible.
It's your ball, isn't it? This is your ball.
I have a weakness for cheese. It's very hard for me to reduce. Every time I buy cheese, I'm trying to reduce it even more. The best salads do have halloumi in them, and it is fried halloumi, so it's nice and crispy. Yeah.
And then in the salad dressing, just finish up. It's a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of balsamic, a bit of mustard.
Sweet, yes.
Sometimes I put a bit of honey on again.
Yeah, and then one of my tricks is really to put soup powder, you know, bouillon powder, into the salad. I love that.
Salty, but with some herbs and stuff in there.
It's less intense than salt.
It's very subtle on the palate. See, I am basically a chef. And halloumi goes on top, and then sweet potato is cut into fries or wedges, whatever, like just very rough cuts. And that they go in the oven. Usually it's about 35-40 minutes, isn't it?
We normally put the sweet potato in the beginning, and then we make the salad. By the time the salad is done, the sweet potato is done.
And the sweet potatoes need attention because you need to turn them so you can get them perfect mushy consistency.
But nice, slight crisp
on the top. Oh man, do you know what I'm so looking forward to tea today? Is it time yet? Like, are we done?
Can we go.
Actually, it's also really heavily snowing outside. We went for a walk this morning. I can't tell you how happy I am. Also, I have no idea how this was going to get to work tomorrow, but we can talk about that another day. Okay, so that's food. We talked about outdoors. One thing I don't want to dive into too much because it's quite a sensitive subject, and I'm very conscious of our viewers and their time and everything like that. But mental health. So, you know, you've alluded to throughout the 3 or 4 episodes that we've done, like some pretty serious things, you know, that you've gone through in your life. And upon meeting me, you shared that you sort of began to be able to reflect on yourself and some of the experiences you've gone through, sort of being able to, I don't know, put a jargon sticker on something, label that experience. How do you sort of help to manage your mental well-being in the current experience or in the past? Like, how have you got through those low patches in your life?
Very interesting because it's such a like current journey I'm on. You mentioned labeling. You know, there's so much wording that you're using that I've never used. Obviously, you know, after my dad died, I was in therapy. After my personal. I'm saying this because it's us here sitting. Oh. After my suicide attempt, and then realizing that there was still something going fairly wrong in my head.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit more or not?
I don't mind. I'm fairly open about it.
Okay, like I don't want to talk about how anything happened. I don't think that's any value to add to the conversation. But sort of, how did you bounce back from basically having tried to take your life, and how old were you?
I was 13. How did I bounce back? It's a very good question. I mean,
or did you?
I did bounce back.
Okay.
I would say because I've left feeling suicidal for a very long time, and very consistently. One of my best friends slapped me around the face, literally, afterwards, which I found helpful because it was just a bit of a, you know, wake up call and going like, mate, if you're feeling this shit, if you're feeling this crap, then you might as well want to talk to somebody. And if you don't want to talk to a professional, at least talk to your friends, and maybe, you know, we can kind of do something less extreme than straight away killing yourself. And I have to say that immediately after, I have massive memory gaps. There are things that I just don't remember. It's obviously just before and after, there's sort of a 3 to 4 year span where a lot of things I just can't remember because I think they've just been...
Well, it's so common when you've gone through something so extreme, you know. I can certainly relate.
Yeah. But I know that after I then went to therapy, which was upon my own request, like I wanted to deal with whatever demons I still had to deal with at that time, I became much happier. I kind of chose life. I chose happiness, and it became more of a conscious decision to not, I'm going to put this very bluntly, but be miserable.
Okay. Yeah.
So I would say that was a proper bounce back time. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add the slight disclaimer that obviously anybody going through any dark patch, like everybody's experience is so different, and how we handle things or where we end up is so different. So, you know, we're purely talking about your experience here. So that was that situation, obviously insanely tough. Like I can relate in the closest possible way to where you were at in your head and how you were. And, you know, I'm hugely grateful that you're here today, but it's so good that you had a lot of foundations in your life that a lot of people don't have, and that is, generally speaking, in the connection world. You know, I really do believe that a lot of depression comes from a lack of connection in some kind of sphere, and you've had a lot of good people in your life for a long time, and that's awesome. So sort of coming around to now, you know, with any struggles that you may or may not be going through now, as you can see, I'm trying to give you all the space. Like, how are you managing that now? Because we're in the middle of winter, you know, it's like me, you can't, and also we're in the middle of lockdown, can't just get out and do what you normally do.
Yeah, and I think that is particularly hard for me right now, because right now for me, you know, with my normal routine is definitely kind of start getting the garden ready, start sowing things indoors, which is something that I want to get on with.
Yeah.
But it's just harder because we are not in my old environment. We don't have our own garden as such, because this is only a rental. Our garden is definitely not designed to be growing anything.
It's just gravel and slabs at the moment.
Yes.
To be continued.
And I do find it quite hard because I have this concept that works very well. Part of it is seeing my friends which are not in the UK on somewhat of a regular basis. Part of it is being in my garden and doing those things. And I have to restructure all of that. It's great where we are. Obviously, you know, I was in beautiful countryside before that, and I have my roots which I would go and do and walk and you know, on a very regular basis along the gardening, and now I have to change all of that, and I have to change as well where almost what I'm using, because I can't use the same structure that I was using before. So I don't really know.
It's just an ongoing thing.
Yes, if I can answer that, because I feel like everything that I have been doing until last year, I have to change and I have to find new ways. Yeah. And with everything that I'm kind of working through and we're working through, and I'm understanding things from a different point of view, especially when it comes to the mental health, I feel like there's much more that I am changing right now. You know, I look at people differently. I look at some of my connections differently, just from a healthy point of view. But it's all big changes.
Yeah, and it's tough. You know, it's a really ongoing process for you. As for me, you know, I think it's very easy for people to look in on life and think that everything's all made up, and it's so easy for me in particular, because I've been cultivating the practice of gratitude for a very long time, to wake up and just fall on my knees and like feeling so humbled and blessed, you know. But it's like the nearest possible thing I can say, you know, I have my morning walk, you know, no matter where I am, if it's a stable place and it feels safe, I can get out for a walk. You know, and I actually have a lot of things I have to do personally to keep myself afloat. Like, anybody who knows me knows that, you know, I'm not really going to be available until 10:30, 11, because not because I'm sleeping, but because I'm busy trying to keep my head, or keep on top of my head with moving my body and getting outside. But it's like when it comes to traveling, I really freak out, you know, because I have so much energy inside of my body. I have to move, and if I don't, it doesn't take long for me to get agitated, and then of course that's going to have a knock-on effect with you. So it's a journey that we're on individually and together, and you're trying to find your practices that you can take with you wherever you go, and I'm trying to do the same. Because it's always very easy for us to look outside of ourselves for things. But the reality is we have to find those little things that we can hold on to inside to ground ourselves and pull ourselves back. And what's really good is we're learning to do that for each other as well. Yeah. But that is like the ultimate vulnerability. It's
very, you know, it's good that you're saying the little things, and this is another part of my journey. Having lived in a house with a garden, I've renovated that whole house where I used to live. So for me, it's been big things. Yeah. Like, I don't know, building a wall or completely rearranging the garden, and all sorts of things, like proper DIY stuff. And I have to minimize that. I have to literally minimize the picture which I'm working on. And it's very hard because it's a different result I'm working with. So I have this really, I'm going to be very stereotypical here, but productive German mindset that makes it very hard to give myself permission to sit down for a couple of hours to just draw or do a puzzle or be creative in some sort of way. And it's much easier to say, oh, you know what, I'm going to paint a room because it needs painting and I have a proper result afterwards. And it feeds into the structure that I need, the creativity that I want to live out, because it has a productive reward for me. And it is something that I have to learn, giving myself permission or finding ways with the little things.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, sometimes, again, another reason why I'm like, I'm so blessed. You know, in who we are together, like, there's certain things that you, like, let's take strengths and weaknesses in day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Like, we pair quite nicely. But I think with this journey, it's something that perhaps I'm a little bit further along with, because I'm also like you, and I think so many people can relate. Like, the doing is something, especially if you're brought up like that. You are a doer, not a beer, you know? And so if you don't have this, and crossed off on your physical, mental list, you've not achieved in the day, and therefore you're not worthy, you know, which is an absolute lie. And that's something you're trying to pick apart, and I haven't completely picked that apart, but I think we're doing that together, and we're almost finding comfort in that together, which is nice, because it's like the other day you were having a really rough day, and you actually got yourself out for a little walk, even though it was sort of an out and back, and you just didn't want to talk much that evening, but you know, I kept feeding in that at least you'd done that, and some people can't even get out and walk. Do you know what I mean? And it is completely a perspective choice when we're in a really bad place, and as soon as we start to come back up, it's really important that we reinforce the truths that go against the lies that we've fallen into when we're in those bad places, and having somebody to walk alongside you is the best gift. If they do it right, you know, and that's not, I'm holding up a flag here, like, I don't always get it right, and nor do you, you know, and I know, you know, 3 or 4 years back for me, when I was in a similar place to you, or whatever, in my own personal way, what I would have given to have somebody walk alongside me. And you know, it's just a nice opportunity for me to once again to say about Wild, like, yes, we are about hiking, yes, we are about the doors, but the outdoors even, but we are about walking through life together, and the whole point is the trail is a metaphor for life, and you can walk it alone or you're walking with other people, but it's a pilgrimage, and we need to support each other and to show up for each other. And that is, again, one reason why we're doing the Abby and Anna show, real honest conversations, because we are real honest people. Okay, so I think that's a serious tie that I'm going to start to knot up, and me being a knot tire, it's not a professional one, but it's proper knotted. I don't know what I'm on about, but let's move on from that quickly. Some quick questions for you then, just as we start to wrap this thing up. Books. Do you have a particular book genre that you like to read? Just to think, these are Patreon questions, so thank you to everyone who put in questions.
Thank you. I used to love reading crimes. So not quite thrillers, but just about murders. Especially Henning Mankell. I've read most of his books. Absolutely love them. I can't watch crime. I can read it though. And I am trying to be enticed by what you're reading, just in order to challenge my own head now. So I wouldn't say there's a particular thing. If anything, you know, Henning Mankell was somebody who I really enjoyed reading.
It's interesting you say about you're trying to sort of get into what I'm reading. I know that books have changed my life, you know, like the books on those shelves, some of them are more underlined than not, you know, like there's a book called Integrity, and of course some of Brené Brown stuff, and Say Yes More, and like there's some really good stuff there, but reading is tough, like something like that, and if it doesn't sort of unwind you as well, like generally speaking, we read in the evening, like that's a little journey. Okay, films. Favorite film?
Lion King.
You gonna do it? She's not gonna do it.
Tukwenya,
Baba hiti baba.
Tukwenya me.
I'm so proud of you.
Great.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna be editing this.
Yeah, she's editing this one. This is something I'm learning to delegate. Okay. Favorite item of clothing.
It's very hard for me to say.
Okay.
I love a good pair of leggings. They're just comfortable.
Okay.
I just feel very unrestricted in them.
What would you do if I just walked around in leggings one day?
Maybe I'm going to input a nice picture of Abby in leggings right here.
No, you're not. And cut. Okay, most challenging outdoor pursuit that you've ever tackled.
We've done some pretty serious races in Hong Kong in very serious weather. We've once raced in a very local race where most of the teams were fishermen who have pretty much spent the last 40 years in boats, in dragon boats, and there were very little boats, so it was just, I think it was 8 or 10 of us in a boat. And once the boat is loaded, especially with a bunch of, compared to the little Chinese fishermen, I'm sorry again, being a little bit blunt here, but fat Westerners, and some of our engine room people, engine room is the middle of the boat where, the power is, were big boys. We had about 2 centimeters between the top of the boat and the top of the sea, and it was quite choppy. A lot of boats sank, actually. I got a proper name there because I just sat in the boat. What do you call it? Bailing the water out and saying, we're not going to be the team who's remembered for sinking. That was really tough. It was really tough, and we did very well. So I would say that was a tough one. And then my first flight, when I learned how to paraglide, without a tandem flight beforehand, it was just you and your wings and you go and fly in the Alps. That was pretty amazing, and yeah, it was very hard, but it was one of the best moments of my life, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, this one you're not gonna like, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Thanks, Patreons. What's your favourite quality about yourself?
About myself?
Yeah.
Why won't I like this?
I don't know, I just thought you don't like the whole...
Yeah. No, generally I don't very much like myself. This is hard.
Is it? I had no idea that it would be hard.
Well, why don't you lead by example?
Favourite quality of myself?
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. I have a few that I respect about myself. Does my hat count as a quality? I really like that I'm a very creatively driven person, so that I don't just have ideas and let them get brushed off. If something really resonates and hits a sort of very visceral spot with me, I will invest time and energy in that.
Yeah, I love that about you.
And it's not just creativity, like it's very intuition led. So, serving and giving. Like there's so much I could do with the platform I have to serve and give and quote unquote make the world a better place. But you can't say yes to everything, because you have finite resources in terms of who you are and in terms of what you have to give, and really leaning into that. I mean, for me, it's, my faith and my relationship with God, but you might want to call it gut feeling, intuition, whatever. That has never failed me. And I use that sort of in all spheres of life. So that's something I admire, because I think it sounds a bit otherworldly for a lot of people, But
it's funny because I was just about to say something I really respect about myself, again, from a fairly young age, and I made a massive shift after coming back to Germany from India, was that I would just not go against what my body was clearly telling me. If I felt unsafe, just weirded out or whatnot in a situation, I would leave the situation. And throughout most of my life, I would follow that gut feeling.
But it's not. Is it always only a bad situation?
No, not necessarily. I mean,
yeah. I just wanted to check that.
You were in a bad situation. I definitely followed some sort of intuition there.
To be continued. No.
I think I am very non-judgmental. People can talk to me about everything and anything, and there's no judgment. I have gone through a lot in my own life. I've met a lot of people, and I know whatever people do, whatever you do or don't do, or where you make mistakes, it's very rarely, very, very rarely actually, that judgment is required, because if you just walk in somebody else's shoes for a couple of miles, you will understand them, and that is something that I think is a good quality of mine.
Have you ever had a blister?
I have, yeah.
Okay. Anyone who's had a blister will know it doesn't take a couple of miles to feel uncomfortable in your feet. It's usually about 100 meters. So let's just start by walking 100 meters in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
It really makes a difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a really nice note to start to wrap this up on, and actually talking about feet, blisters, shoes. Perfect place to talk about what I believe will be our next episode. So last year we went for our first long distance hike together. It had many ups and downs, but as there's life.
Literally.
Frick, how many steps were there on the map? Can we go back one day and do it and actually just count the steps?
Yes.
Because that must break a world record.
Yes.
Wow. Anyway, so we walked the Malerweg, which is a trail in the east of Germany. You can do it in as little as 4 days. We actually decided to take, what was it?
8 days.
8 days.
I think so.
We took it leisurely because we had a lot of learning to do
Yeah.
about each other, about ourselves, about how to work together. And it was overall just a brilliant experience.
Yeah.
But we'd really like to have a chat in the next episode about what that experience actually was comprised of. You know, again, the ups and downs, the challenges we came up against, the fun times we had. If we have got the time, we'll put a little bit of B-roll on top as well, so you can get a sneak preview from the Malerweg. But yeah, it was a good experience.
Yeah.
Hey? Some funny things.
Yeah. We wrote a first song.
We did write our first song. Are you ready? Just first line.
We're walking the
Malerweg. Alright, well listen, it's been really fun having this chat with you.
Thank you.
It's been very unscripted, as you can tell. Also kind of weird for me because interviewing you, sort of. But
yeah. Did you learn anything that you didn't know before?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Would be surprised if so.
Yeah. No, but it was it's nice, and I think it will really open the doors to a lot of understanding from a lot of people within the WoW community. It's nice for them to get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the questions as well, because it's nice to tell you guys what you want to know about me. Obviously, there are boundaries to everything that I want to share, but
Big
I
wide
really
world is a
enjoyed
scary
it.
place.
Yes, yeah.
No, but
No, I really enjoyed it.
yeah. So if you have any other questions for myself or for Anna or for us to address on the Abby and Anna show, then please leave us in the comments below. It'd be really nice for us to address them at some point. We have lots of ideas for this series, and yeah, I really hope that you've enjoyed this. We've loved hanging out with you guys today. I got through my tea quite quickly, actually. Because I'm not the one talking today, so I'm just like, bicep, yeah. But I reckon we're gonna go play in the snow now. So
Yes.
thank you for watching, guys. From the best of us, or from the both of us, either. The best of both of us. Enjoy your adventures and stay wild. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
From the best of both of us.
Yeah.
Have some of that.
Check out them triceps.
He's got his sleeping gown on.
This is his pajama setup here. Hey? And it's snowing outside, so it's a pajama day.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's great.